In the heart of a small southern town, Lily Carter, a bright and imaginative young girl, faces daily struggles that most her age could scarcely imagine. Growing up in poverty with her widowed father, Marcus, Lily's life is defined by peeling paint, second-hand clothes, and whispered prejudices that come with being a young black girl in a community slow to embrace change. Despite it all, Lily clings to her sketchbook, pouring her dreams onto paper, hoping for a world where her art and her voice can be seen and heard. When a chance encounter with a distressed millionaire's wife sets Lily's path on an unexpected course, she finds herself thrust into a world far beyond anything she's ever known. With the help of the Collins family, who recognize her raw talent, Lily begins a journey of self-discovery and opportunity, entering art competitions and attending prestigious programs that challenge her to embrace her identity and her dreams. But as doors open for Lily, the weight of prejudice, self-doubt, and the fear of leaving behind the only life she's known threaten to hold her back. At school, she becomes the target of cruel taunts from classmates who resent her success, and at home, she wrestles with guilt over leaving her hard-working father behind. Can Lily overcome the challenges of a world that sees her as too different? Will she find the strength to silence the voices of doubt, both external and internal, and rise as an artist with something to say? Lily Carter sat cross-legged on the worn carpet of her tiny bedroom, her sketchbook balanced on her lap. The room was dimly lit by a single bulb dangling from the ceiling, its faint hum blending with the distant sound of sirens from the street outside. The walls, once painted a pale pink, were now cracked and peeling, revealing layers of plaster beneath. Yet to Lily, it was her sanctuary. She stared at the blank page before her, pencil poised, waiting for inspiration to strike. From the other side of the paper-thin wall came the sound of her father, Marcus, shuffling through bills. Lily could hear his heavy sighs, each one louder than the last. It was the same every evening. Marcus worked long hours at his auto garage, but no matter how many oil changes or engine repairs he completed, the money never seemed to stretch far enough. "Lily," Marcus called from the small kitchen that doubled as a dining room. His voice was weary but warm. "Dinner's ready." Lily closed her sketchbook and placed it on her makeshift desk, which was really just an old wooden crate. "Coming, Dad," she called back. As she entered the kitchen, the smell of fried bologna filled the air. Marcus was standing by the stove, wearing his grease-stained work shirt and a tired smile. On the table were two plates, each with a slice of bologna and a spoonful of canned green beans. "Not much tonight," Marcus said apologetically as he sat down, his broad shoulders slumping slightly. "It's perfect," Lily replied, forcing a smile. She was used to this small meal, a creaky apartment, and her dad working himself to exhaustion. But what she hated most was the look of guilt on his face, as though he felt responsible for their struggles. They ate in silence for a while, the only sound being the clink of forks on mismatched plates. "How's school?" Marcus asked, breaking the quiet. "It's okay," Lily replied, though it wasn't entirely true. She didn't tell him about the whispers and snickers from her classmates when she showed her art in class, or the way her teacher barely acknowledged her efforts. Marcus leaned back in his chair, studying her. "You've been quiet lately, kiddo. Everything all right?" Lily hesitated, then nodded. "Yeah, I'm fine, Dad." But she wasn't fine. She felt invisible at school, and at home, she couldn't help but notice how the weight of their circumstances bore down on her father. She wanted to help, but she was only 12, and what could a 12-year-old do? After dinner, Lily returned to her room and flipped open her sketchbook. Drawing was her escape. With each stroke of her pencil, she could create a world far removed from her own, a place where the cracks in the walls didn't exist, and where her dreams weren't overshadowed by reality. That night, she sketched a scene of sunlight breaking through storm clouds, illuminating a field of flowers. It was a simple image, but it carried a hope that Lily desperately clung to. The next afternoon, on her way home from school, Lily's path took her through the center of town. The streets were bustling with people, the air filled with the sound of honking cars and snippets of conversation. Lily clutched her sketchbook tightly to her chest, her gaze fixed on the sidewalk as she navigated through the crowd. It had rained earlier, and puddles glistened in the sunlight. As Lily turned a corner, she spotted a woman struggling to carry several grocery bags. The woman was visibly pregnant, her face flushed as she paused to catch her breath. No one seemed to notice her. Busy passers-by rushed past without a second glance, their faces indifferent. Lily hesitated for a moment, her father's words echoing in her mind. Always do the right thing, even when it's hard. Gathering her courage, Lily approached the woman. "Ma'am, do you need help?" she asked softly. The woman looked up, her expression one of surprise and relief. "Oh, thank you," she said, her voice strained. "I'm fine, really, just a little tired." But Lily could see the way her hands trembled as she adjusted the bags. Without waiting for permission, Lily reached out and took two of the heaviest ones. "Let me carry these for you," Lily said firmly. The woman hesitated, then nodded. "Thank you, sweetheart. You're very kind." They walked together to a black SUV parked a block away. As they reached the vehicle, a man in a crisp suit stepped out of the driver's side. His sharp features softened as he saw the woman and Lily. "Bethany, are you all right?" he asked, concern evident in his tone. "I'm fine, Aaron," the woman replied. "This young lady was kind enough to help me." Aaron turned to Lily, his piercing blue eyes studying her for a moment. Then he smiled a genuine, warm smile that caught Lily off guard. "Thank you," he said. "You didn't have to do that." "It was no trouble," Lily replied, feeling suddenly shy under his gaze. Aaron reached into his pocket and pulled out a business card. "If you ever need anything, don't hesitate to call," he said, handing it to her. Lily glanced at the card, the name Aaron Collins printed in bold letters, along with the logo of a company she didn't recognize. She tucked it into her pocket, unsure of what to say. As she walked away, the interaction replayed in her mind. She had helped because it was the right thing to do, not expecting anything in return. But there was something about the kindness in Aaron's eyes that stayed with her. That evening, Lily showed her sketchbook to her father. She flipped to the page with the sunlight breaking through the clouds. "It's beautiful," Marcus said, his voice thick with pride. "You've got a gift, Lily. Don't ever let anyone tell you otherwise." Lily smiled, but her thoughts lingered on Aaron and Bethany. For the first time in a while, she felt as though her small act of kindness might lead to something bigger, a glimmer of light breaking through the storm clouds of their lives. She didn't know how, but deep down she felt that her story was about to change. The next morning, sunlight streamed through the thin curtains of Lily's bedroom, waking her before her alarm. She stretched, her hand brushing against her sketchbook lying beside her on the bed. The drawing she had started the night before, a silhouette of a girl reaching toward a sunlit sky, reminded her of the woman she had helped yesterday. Bethany, she thought. She seemed kind, like someone who understood struggles. But what lingered most in her mind was Aaron Collins's card. She had slipped it into her backpack when she got home, unsure of what to do with it. A business card seemed like such a small thing, but to Lily, it felt heavy with possibility. "Lily, breakfast!" Marcus called from the kitchen, his deep voice pulling her from her thoughts. "I'm coming," she replied, tucking the sketchbook into her bag and heading out. In the kitchen, Marcus was pouring coffee into his favorite chipped mug. He glanced up as Lily sat down at the table, setting a plate of toast and scrambled eggs in front of her. "Big plans for school today?" he asked, trying to sound casual. Lily shrugged, poking at her eggs with her fork. "Not really. Same old stuff." Marcus frowned slightly but didn't press her. He could sense when Lily wasn't in the mood to talk, and today was one of those days. At school, the day started like any other. The students clustered in groups in the hallways, their laughter and chatter echoing off the walls. Lily kept her head down, walking quickly to her locker. As she opened it, a voice behind her sneered, "Still carrying that dumb sketchbook around?" Lily turned to see Rachel Hayes, one of the popular girls in her grade, leaning against a nearby locker with her arms crossed. Rachel's friends stood beside her, smirking. Lily's cheeks flushed, but she didn't respond. She had learned long ago that reacting only made things worse. "Seriously," Rachel continued, her voice dripping with mockery, "why do you even bother? It's not like anyone cares about your little doodles." Lily gripped her sketchbook tightly, fighting the sting of Rachel's words. She wanted to tell Rachel that her drawings were more than doodles, that they were her escape, her voice, her way of dreaming beyond the gray walls of this school and the struggles of her life. But instead, she turned and walked away. Her art teacher, Mrs. Harrison, barely looked up as Lily entered the classroom. The students were already working on a group project about famous artists, but as usual, Lily was left out of the groups. She sat alone at the back of the room, sketching quietly, while Mrs. Harrison circulated among the other students, praising their efforts. When the bell rang, Lily slipped out of the classroom as quickly as she could. She didn't want anyone to see the tears that had welled up in her eyes. After school, Lily wandered through the streets instead of heading straight home. Her feet carried her to the same cafe where she and her father sometimes stopped for lunch when money allowed. She ordered a small iced tea, using the last of her allowance, and found a seat by the window. Pulling out her sketchbook, she started to draw, letting her pencil move freely across the page. She sketched a field of wildflowers under a bright sun, each bloom reaching upward, as though striving for something greater. "Excuse me," a voice interrupted, startling her. Lily looked up to see Aaron Collins standing beside her table, holding a cup of coffee. He smiled, his expression warm but curious. "It's Lily, right?" he asked. She nodded, surprised that he remembered her name. Aaron glanced at the sketchbook on the table. "Mind if I sit?" "Sure," Lily replied, moving her sketchbook aside. Aaron sat down, setting his coffee on the table. "I didn't expect to see you here. Do you come often?" "Sometimes," Lily said, her voice quiet. She glanced down at her sketchbook, feeling self-conscious. Aaron gestured to the sketchbook. "May I?" Hesitating for a moment, Lily finally nodded and handed it to him. As he flipped through the pages, his expression shifted from polite interest to genuine admiration. "These are incredible," he said. "You have real talent, Lily." She blinked, taken aback. No one outside her father had ever said that. "Thank you," she murmured. Aaron paused on a page filled with sketches of sunlight breaking through clouds. "This one," he said, tapping the drawing. "It's hopeful, like you're trying to find something better." Lily's throat tightened. How had he seen that so easily? Aaron set the sketchbook down and looked at her. "Have you ever thought about pursuing art seriously? Like taking classes or showcasing your work?" Lily shook her head quickly. "I could never afford something like that," she said, her voice tinged with embarrassment. Aaron's brow furrowed as he studied her. "What if I told you I could help?" Her heart skipped a beat. "Help how?" "My wife and I support an art program for young artists," Aaron explained. "It's a place where kids like you can learn and grow. I think you'd thrive there." Lily stared at him, her mind racing. It sounded too good to be true. People didn't just offer opportunities like this, especially not to girls like her. "I don't know," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. Aaron smiled gently. "I understand it's a lot to think about. But here." He pulled out a card from his pocket and slid it across the table. "If you change your mind, call me. I'll make sure you have a spot in the program." Lily stared at the card, the weight of its implications settling on her shoulders. Could this really be real? When Lily got home that evening, she found Marcus sitting at the kitchen table, his hands buried in his hair. The bills were spread out in front of him, and his expression was one of defeat. "Dad?" Lily said softly, setting her backpack down. Marcus looked up, forcing a small smile. "Hey, sweetheart. How was school?" Lily hesitated, then pulled the card from her pocket and set it on the table. "I met someone today," she said, explaining her encounter with Aaron Collins. "He said he could help me with my art." Marcus picked up the card, his eyes narrowing as he read the name. "Aaron Collins? He seems nice," Lily said quickly, "and serious about helping me." Marcus leaned back in his chair, his gaze thoughtful. "You think this is something you want to do?" Lily nodded, her hands trembling slightly. "I think it's worth a try." Marcus reached across the table and took her hand. "Then let's give it a shot," he said, his voice steady. "You deserve this, Lily. Don't let anyone make you think otherwise." For the first time in weeks, Lily felt a flicker of hope. Maybe this was her chance, her sunlight breaking through the clouds. The next Saturday morning, Lily and her father stepped off the city bus, standing before a sleek building with large glass windows and a sign above the door that read, "Collins Creative Arts Center." Lily clutched her sketchbook tightly against her chest, her heart pounding. She had spent the bus ride alternating between excitement and self-doubt. What if she wasn't good enough? What if they thought her drawings were childish? "You're going to be great, kiddo," Marcus said, resting a reassuring hand on her shoulder. Lily nodded, though her stomach felt like it was filled with butterflies. Inside, the building was bustling with activity. The walls were adorned with vibrant artwork, portraits, landscapes, abstract pieces, all far more polished than anything Lily had ever done. A receptionist greeted them warmly and directed them to the second floor, where a small group of students were gathered in an open studio space. "Lily!" Lily turned to see Aaron Collins approaching, a friendly smile on his face. He was dressed casually in a sweater and jeans, looking much less formal than when she had first met him. "Hi, Mr. Collins," she said, her voice small. "Aaron, please," he replied, shaking Marcus's hand before turning back to Lily. "I'm so glad you came. We have a fantastic instructor, and I think you're going to love it here." Lily managed a nervous smile as Aaron led them into the studio. The room smelled faintly of paint and wood, with easels set up in a semicircle. Several students were already working on their projects, their heads bent intently over their canvases. "Lily, this is Ms. Janice," Aaron said, introducing a tall woman with dark curly hair and a warm smile. "She runs the program." "Welcome, Lily," Ms. Janice said, her voice smooth and inviting. "Aaron has told me about your talent, and I can't wait to see your work." Lily blushed, unsure how to respond. She opened her sketchbook, flipping to a page with a drawing of wildflowers under a bright sun. She held it out hesitantly, her hands trembling. Ms. Janice studied the drawing for a moment, then looked up, her eyes bright with approval. "This is beautiful, Lily. You have a natural eye for detail and emotion. I can't wait to see what you create with more tools and practice." Relief washed over Lily. For the first time, she felt like maybe she belonged here. After Marcus left, Lily spent the rest of the morning observing the other students and getting to know the studio. Ms. Janice encouraged her to experiment with paints, handing her a blank canvas and a set of brushes. Lily hesitated, feeling the eyes of the other students on her. She dipped her brush into the yellow paint, her hand shaky as she made the first stroke. But as she worked, she began to relax, losing herself in the rhythm of the brush against the canvas. "Nice work," a voice said from behind her. Lily turned to see a girl about her age with short curly hair and glasses. She was smiling, her hands smudged with blue and green paint. "I'm Sophia," the girl said. "Lily," she replied shyly. "I like your colors," Sophia said, gesturing to the canvas. "They're bright and hopeful. Most people start with boring stuff like fruit bowls." Lily laughed softly, some of her tension easing. "Don't worry," Sophia continued. "You'll fit in here. Everyone's pretty nice." It was the first time someone her age had spoken to her like an equal, and Lily felt a glimmer of hope. The weeks that followed were a whirlwind of activity. Lily attended the program twice a week after school, immersing herself in lessons about technique, color theory, and composition. Ms. Janice encouraged her to push boundaries, to explore her emotions through her art. At home, Marcus was more supportive than ever, often staying up late to admire Lily's work and offer his thoughts. Even when the garage's financial troubles loomed, he made sure Lily had the supplies she needed, buying paints and brushes with the little extra money he earned. But not everything came easily. At school, the whispers and sneers from Rachel and her friends continued. When word got out that Lily was attending an art program, Rachel rolled her eyes and said loudly, "What a waste of time, like she'll ever go anywhere with that." Lily tried to ignore the taunts, but they stung. Sometimes she would sit in the back of her classes, doodling in her notebook to block out the noise. One afternoon, Rachel snatched the notebook from Lily's desk, flipping through it carelessly. "Hey, give it back," Lily protested, her voice trembling. Rachel smirked, holding it just out of reach. "Oh, is this supposed to be art? It looks like a kindergartner did it." Before Lily could respond, a teacher entered the room, and Rachel tossed the notebook onto Lily's desk with a laugh. Lily's face burned with humiliation, but she stayed silent, her hands trembling as she closed the notebook. That evening, Lily poured her frustration into her work. She painted a stormy sky with jagged lightning cutting through the darkness. As she added bold strokes of color, she thought about Ms. Janice's words, "Let your feelings guide your art. The more honest it is, the more powerful it will be." The result was unlike anything Lily had ever created before. It was raw and emotional, a reflection of the hurt she had bottled up. When Marcus saw it, he stopped in his tracks. "Lily," he said softly, "this is incredible." She looked at the painting, unsure. "It's different," she said hesitantly. Marcus shook his head. "It's more than that. It's you." His words stayed with her as she brought the painting to the next class. Ms. Janice was equally impressed, showing it to the other students as an example of how art could convey deep emotion. For the first time, Lily felt like she was being seen for who she truly was. One evening after class, Aaron approached Lily as she packed up her supplies. "I have some exciting news," he said, his smile wide. "Our annual art showcase is coming up next month, and I'd like you to submit a piece." Lily froze, her brush halfway into her bag. "Me? In a showcase?" "Yes," Aaron said firmly. "Your work deserves to be seen, Lily. This is a chance to show people what you can do." Lily's heart raced. The thought of strangers judging her work was terrifying, but the idea of her art being displayed in a real exhibition filled her with a cautious excitement. "I'll think about it," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. Aaron nodded. "Take your time. But remember, opportunities like this don't come around often." As Lily walked home that evening, the city lights casting long shadows on the sidewalk, she clutched her sketchbook tightly. She thought about the stormy painting, the hope in her father's eyes, and the kindness of Aaron and Ms. Janice. For the first time, she began to wonder if her dreams weren't as far away as they had always seemed. The next morning, Lily woke up to the sound of rain tapping against her bedroom window. She lay in bed for a moment, staring at the ceiling, her thoughts swirling with both excitement and fear. Aaron's words from the previous evening echoed in her mind. "Your work deserves to be seen. This is a chance to show people what you can do." Her sketchbook sat on the corner of her desk, its pages filled with a mix of doodles, experiments, and half-finished ideas. The thought of choosing just one piece to represent herself at the art showcase felt overwhelming. "Lily, breakfast is ready," Marcus called from the kitchen, his voice carrying through the small apartment. "Coming," she replied, sitting up and rubbing her eyes. As she entered the kitchen, Marcus was pouring coffee into his favorite chipped mug. On the table were 2 plates of toast and eggs. "You're up early," Marcus said, sliding a plate toward her. "Couldn't sleep?" "Not really," Lily admitted as she sat down. Mr. Collins asked me to submit something for the art showcase next month. Marcus's eyebrows shot up. A showcase? That's incredible, Lily. She shrugged, poking at her toast. I guess. But what if my work isn't good enough? What if people don't like it? Marcus leaned forward, his expression serious. Lily, you've got a gift. You've worked hard, and you deserve this. Don't let fear hold you back. You've already faced worse and come out stronger. Lily nodded, though her doubts lingered. She wasn't sure she believed in herself as much as her father did. At the Collins Creative Arts Center, the atmosphere buzzed with energy. The annual showcase was only a few weeks away, and students were busy preparing their submissions. Canvases filled with vibrant colors and intricate designs lined the studio walls, each one a testament to the hours of effort poured into them. Lily found her usual spot near the window, unpacking her supplies. Sophia, her first friend at the center, plopped down beside her with a grin. Showcase prep is intense, huh? Sophia said, setting up her easel. Yeah, Lily replied, glancing nervously at the other students. Their work seemed so polished, so professional. Compared to theirs, her paintings felt amateurish. Sophia nudged her. Don't overthink it. Your work has something theirs doesn't. What's that? Heart, Sophia said simply. You put your whole self into your art, and people can feel it. Lily smiled faintly, unsure if she believed her. Ms. Janice walked into the room, clapping her hands for attention. All right, everyone, listen up. The showcase is fast approaching, and I want each of you to choose the piece you'll submit. Remember, this is your chance to show who you are as an artist. Don't hold back. As the other students began discussing their ideas, Lily stared at her blank canvas. Her stormy painting had received praise, but she wanted something more, a piece that reflected not just her struggles, but also her hope for something better. Any thoughts, Lily? Ms. Janice asked, stopping by her station. I'm not sure, Lily admitted. I want it to be personal, but I don't know where to start. Ms. Janice nodded thoughtfully. Think about what drives you. What's the one thing that keeps you going, even when things get tough? Lily considered this as Ms. Janice moved on. What kept her going? Her father's unwavering support? Her memories of her mother? The tiny moments of kindness she'd received along the way? She picked up her brush, an idea forming in her mind. That evening, Lily worked late into the night, her brush moving with purpose. She painted a young girl standing in a field of wildflowers, her face turned toward a sky filled with both storm clouds and sunlight. The girl's posture was defiant, her hand reaching upward, as if grasping for something just out of reach. The painting felt raw and honest, capturing the balance between fear and hope that defined so much of Lily's life. When Marcus saw it the next morning, his reaction was immediate. Lily, he said, his voice thick with emotion. This is you. You think it's good enough for the showcase? She asked, her voice uncertain. It's more than good enough, Marcus said firmly. This is the one, Lily. As the showcase approached, Lily threw herself into her work, refining the details of her painting. At the same time, she continued to face challenges at school. Rachel and her friends hadn't stopped their taunts, and when Rachel overheard Lily talking to Sophia about the showcase, her scorn only grew. An art showcases? Rachel sneered during lunch. Let me guess, they're doing charity cases now? Lily's cheeks burned, but she kept her head down, refusing to give Rachel the reaction she wanted. Sophia glared at Rachel. At least Lily has talent, which is more than I can say for you. Rachel's friends gasped, but Lily tugged at Sophia's sleeve. Let it go, she whispered. That night, Lily replayed Rachel's words in her mind. The doubts crept back, but she pushed them aside, focusing instead on her painting. Finally, the day of the showcase arrived. The Collins Creative Arts Center was transformed into a gallery, with each student's work displayed on easels and pedestals. The room buzzed with excitement as visitors, including families, local artists, and gallery owners, filled the space. Lily stood by her painting, her hands clasped nervously in front of her. She wore a simple dress her father had bought for the occasion, and her hair was neatly braided. Marcus stood nearby, beaming with pride. "You've got this, kiddo," he said, giving her shoulder a reassuring squeeze. As the evening progressed, people stopped to admire Lily's painting. Some murmured words of appreciation. Others asked her about the meaning behind it. Each time, Lily answered shyly, still adjusting to the idea of people seeing her work. Toward the end of the evening, Ms. Janice approached with a woman in tow. The woman was elegantly dressed, her silver hair swept into a bun. "Lily, this is Margaret Blake," Ms. Janice said. "She owns one of the most prestigious galleries in the city." Lily's heart skipped a beat. "It's nice to meet you," she said, her voice trembling slightly. Margaret studied Lily's painting for a long moment, then turned to her with a smile. "This is extraordinary," she said. "It's raw, emotional, and beautifully executed. I'd like to discuss the possibility of featuring your work in one of my upcoming exhibitions." Lily blinked, unsure if she had heard correctly. "You mean me?" "Yes, you," Margaret said with a chuckle. "You have a gift, my dear, and I think the world deserves to see it." Lily felt tears prick at her eyes as Marcus stepped forward, his pride unmistakable. "Thank you," he said, his voice thick with emotion. Margaret nodded. "The pleasure is mine. Lily, I'll be in touch soon to discuss the details." As Margaret walked away, Lily turned to her father. "Did that really just happen?" "It did," Marcus said, pulling her into a hug. "You've earned this, Lily. I'm so proud of you." For the first time, Lily allowed herself to believe that her dreams weren't just distant fantasies. They were within reach, and this was only the beginning. Lily could hardly believe it. The memory of Margaret Blake's words kept replaying in her mind as she sat at the kitchen table the next morning, staring at her half-eaten toast. Her father, Marcus, bustled about the tiny kitchen, humming a tune under his breath as he packed his lunch for the day. "You're quiet this morning," Marcus said, sitting across from her. "Still thinking about last night?" Lily nodded. "It just feels unreal. I mean, why would someone like Margaret Blake want my art?" "Why wouldn't she?" Marcus replied, his tone firm. "You've worked hard, Lily. You've earned this." Lily managed a small smile, but her doubts lingered. Margaret had said she would call to arrange a meeting, and while Lily wanted to feel hopeful, she couldn't shake the thought that something might go wrong. At the Collins Creative Arts Center that afternoon, Lily shared the news with Sophia, who squealed in excitement. "That's amazing," Sophia said, practically bouncing on her toes. "Do you know how rare it is for someone our age to get noticed by someone like Margaret Blake? You're going to be famous." "Famous?" Lily laughed nervously, shaking her head. "I'm just hoping I don't mess this up." Ms. Janice overheard and walked over, placing a reassuring hand on Lily's shoulder. "Margaret sees potential, Lily. You have a voice that's unique, and she wants the world to hear it. Just be yourself and trust your instincts." But being herself wasn't as easy as it sounded. A few days later, Lily received the call from Margaret Blake. They arranged a meeting at Margaret's gallery to discuss Lily's potential involvement in an upcoming exhibition. The gallery was located in a part of town Lily had only seen in magazines, filled with elegant storefronts and expensive cars. Lily and Marcus arrived early, stepping into the spacious gallery with its pristine white walls and polished floors. The artwork on display was stunning, bold abstracts, lifelike portraits, and sculptures that seemed almost alive. Margaret greeted them warmly, her presence both commanding and kind. She led them to her office, where they discussed the details of the exhibition. "We're planning to showcase emerging artists alongside established names," Margaret explained. "It's an incredible opportunity to gain exposure and build connections in the art world." Lily listened intently, her nerves buzzing with both excitement and fear. "You'll need to create a new piece for the show," Margaret continued. Something that speaks to who you are as an artist. Think about what you want people to feel when they see your work." Lily nodded, though the enormity of the task made her chest tighten. Over the next few weeks, Lily threw herself into her art, sketching and painting late into the night. She wanted her piece to be perfect, but every time she thought she was making progress, doubt crept in. "What if it's not good enough?" she muttered one evening, staring at the half-finished canvas in front of her. Marcus, who had been sitting nearby with a cup of coffee, looked up. "It doesn't have to be perfect, Lily. It just has to be honest. That's what people connect with." His words reminded her of what Ms. Janice had said about art reflecting the artist's heart. Taking a deep breath, Lily decided to stop overthinking and let her emotions guide her. She painted a scene of a young girl walking along a dirt road lined with wilted flowers, a single blooming sunflower in her hand. The road curved toward a horizon where storm clouds began to part, revealing rays of sunlight. It was a story of resilience and hope, drawn from Lily's own journey. But the road to the exhibition wasn't without challenges. At school, Rachel and her friends hadn't stopped their taunts. One day, as Lily sat in the library during lunch, working on a sketch for her piece, Rachel walked by with her group and snatched the sketchbook off the table. "What are you working on now, little Miss Art Star?" Rachel sneered, flipping through the pages. "Give it back, Rachel," Lily said, trying to keep her voice steady. Rachel smirked, tearing a page out of the book. "Oops," she said mockingly. "Guess it wasn't that important." Lily's cheeks burned with anger and humiliation, but she refused to let Rachel see her cry. Sophia found her in the hallway afterward, clutching the torn pages of her sketchbook. "You can't let her get to you," Sophia said, her voice fierce. "You're better than her, Lily. You're going places, and she knows it. That's why she's acting like this." Lily nodded, though it didn't make the sting of Rachel's actions hurt any less. The day of the exhibition arrived, and Lily stood in the gallery beside her finished piece, her hands trembling slightly. She wore a simple dress that Marcus had bought her for the occasion, and her hair was styled in neat braids. Visitors wandered through the gallery, stopping to admire the artwork. Some paused at Lily's piece, murmuring words of appreciation. "It's so raw," one woman said. "You can feel the struggle and the hope." Lily felt her cheeks warm at the compliment, but she didn't have time to dwell on it. Margaret approached with a man in tow, introducing him as Mr. Harland, a renowned art critic. "Mr. Harland has been very impressed by your work," Margaret said, smiling warmly. Harland studied Lily's painting for a moment, then nodded. "It's evocative," he said. "It tells a story, and that's what great art does. You have a bright future ahead of you, young lady." The words filled Lily with a mixture of relief and disbelief. By the end of the evening, Lily's piece had not only garnered praise, but also sold to a collector for a significant amount. Margaret presented her with the check, which felt heavy in Lily's trembling hands. "You've done something incredible tonight," Margaret said. "This is just the beginning." As Lily and Marcus walked home that night, the city lights casting a warm glow on the pavement, Marcus turned to her with a smile. "You know, Lily," he said, "I always knew you had something special, but seeing everyone else recognize it, it's a feeling I can't describe." Lily looked at the check in her hand, then up at her father. "This is for us, Dad," she said softly, "for everything you've done to help me get here." "No," Marcus said, his voice firm. "This is for you, Lily, for your dreams, and I want you to keep chasing them, no matter what." For the first time, Lily felt a sense of pride that outweighed her doubts. She had faced challenges and fear, but she had also found support and kindness along the way. And now, she was beginning to see what was possible when she believed in herself. The sun peeked through Lily's window the next morning, warming the walls of her small bedroom. She sat at her desk, staring at the check from the gallery. It was more money than she and Marcus had seen in a long time, but Lily felt an overwhelming sense of responsibility. What would she do with it? Should she give it to her dad to help with the garage? Save it for art supplies? Lily, breakfast is ready, Marcus called from the kitchen. She carefully tucked the check into a drawer, deciding to talk to her dad about it later. At the table, Marcus placed a plate of pancakes in front of her, smiling. Figured we'd celebrate a little. You deserve it, Lily laughed softly. It's just pancakes, Dad. Pancakes are a big deal, Marcus replied, his tone teasing. Then his voice grew serious. I meant what I said last night. You've earned this. I'm proud of you. Thanks, Dad, Lily said, her cheeks flushing. But I was thinking, maybe we could use the money for the garage. You've done so much for me. I want to help. Marcus shook his head. No way. That money is yours. Use it for your art, for school, or whatever you need to keep chasing your dreams. I'll figure the rest out. Though his words were firm, Lily could see the strain in his eyes, the weight of their struggles still pressing on him. She promised herself she'd find a way to support him, even if he wouldn't accept it now. At the Collins Creative Arts Center that afternoon, Lily returned to her usual spot near the window. The other students greeted her warmly, some congratulating her on the success of her piece at the exhibition. You're like a celebrity now, Sophia joked, nudging her. Lily rolled her eyes but smiled. Hardly. I still have so much to learn. Maybe, Sophia replied, but that's what makes you great. You're not afraid to grow. Ms. Janice called the class to order, her sharp but encouraging tone filling the room. Today, I want you all to think about where you want to go next with your art. The showcase was a milestone, but it's not the finish line. Great artists are always asking, what's next? The question lingered in Lily's mind. What was next for her? She had always dreamed of being an artist, but now that the door had cracked open, she realized how little she knew about the world she was stepping into. Later that evening, Margaret Blake called. Lily, I wanted to congratulate you again, Margaret said warmly. Your piece has received a lot of attention, and I've had inquiries about your work. Are you open to commissions? Commissions? Lily repeated, her voice faltering. Yes, Margaret replied. Private clients who want custom pieces. It's a fantastic way to gain experience and exposure while earning money for your art. Lily hesitated. The idea of painting for someone else felt daunting, but the opportunity was too big to pass up. I'd love to, she said finally. Wonderful, Margaret said. I'll send you the details for your first client. And Lily, don't doubt yourself. You're ready for this. The following weeks were a whirlwind. Lily worked on her first commissioned piece, a landscape for a family's living room. It was a challenge to balance her vision with their expectations, but with guidance from Ms. Janice and encouragement from Marcus, she managed to complete it. When the family came to pick up the painting, their delighted reaction was all the reassurance Lily needed. It's perfect, the mother said, her eyes shining. Thank you, Lily. Hearing those words made the late nights and moments of frustration worth it. Despite her growing success, Lily continued to face challenges. At school, Rachel's taunts hadn't stopped. If anything, they had become more pointed. Look who thinks she's too good for the rest of us, Rachel sneered one afternoon, as Lily passed her in the hallway. Lily clenched her fists but kept walking. She refused to let Rachel's words derail her progress. Sophia caught up with her after class, her expression full of concern. You can't keep letting her get away with this, Lily. She's not worth it, Lily said with a sigh. She's just jealous, Sophia insisted. And honestly, she should be. You're doing amazing things, and she knows she'll never have what you have. Lily smiled faintly, grateful for Sophia's support. At home, Lily found solace in her father's unwavering encouragement. You've got to let the negativity roll off you like water, Marcus said one evening, as they sat together in the living room. There will always be people who try to bring you down. You just have to keep going. I know, Lily replied. It's just hard sometimes. Marcus nodded. The hard things are the ones that make you stronger, And you're one of the strongest people I know, Lily. One afternoon, as Lily was cleaning her brushes, Aaron Collins stopped by the studio. "How's my star artist doing?" he asked, his smile warm. Lily laughed. "I'm far from a star." Aaron shook his head. "Don't sell yourself short. You've come so far in such a short time. And Bethany and I are so proud of you." "Thank you," Lily said, her voice soft. "I couldn't have done any of this without you." Aaron waved off her gratitude. "You earned it, Lily. We just gave you the tools. And speaking of tools, I've been talking to Margaret. There's a mentorship program for young artists that I think you'd be perfect for. It's competitive, but I believe you have a strong chance." "A mentorship?" Lily's eyes widened. "Yes," Aaron said. "It would connect you with established artists who can guide you as you develop your career. Think about it." As Lily walked home that evening, the possibilities felt endless. She thought about how far she had come since the day she helped Bethany with her groceries. That small moment of kindness had set off a chain reaction, opening doors she hadn't even known existed. When she reached home, Marcus was waiting for her with a wide smile. "What's got you glowing?" he asked. "Aaron mentioned a mentorship program," Lily said, her excitement bubbling over. "He thinks I should apply." Marcus's smile widened. "Then you should. This is your time, Lily. Don't let anything hold you back." Lily nodded, her heart swelling with gratitude and determination. That night, as she sketched in her notebook, she thought about the road ahead. It wouldn't be easy, but she was ready. With the support of the people who believed in her, she knew she could face whatever challenges came her way. For the first time, she felt like she truly belonged in the world of art. The morning of the mentorship program application was chilly, with frost clinging to the windows of Lily's apartment. She sat at the kitchen table, her hands wrapped around a warm mug of tea, staring at the blank application form in front of her. The words seemed to blur as doubt crept into her thoughts. "Do I really belong in a program like this?" she asked aloud. Marcus, who was fixing the faucet in the kitchen sink, looked up. His face was smudged with grease from the garage, but his expression was steady. "Lily, you've got to stop doubting yourself. You've earned every opportunity that's come your way. Now go for this one too." Lily nodded, his words sinking in but not completely silencing the voice of insecurity in her mind. At the Collins Creative Arts Center, Ms. Janice was equally encouraging when Lily told her about the application. "This program is a big deal," Lily said, her voice trembling. "What if I'm not good enough?" Ms. Janice shook her head firmly. "Lily, you've already proven you belong here. This mentorship isn't just about talent, it's about growth, and you've shown that in spades. Submit your best work and trust the process." Lily spent the next few days preparing her portfolio. She chose pieces that reflected her journey paintings of resilience, hope, and her identity. With each stroke of the brush and each pencil line, she poured her emotions onto the canvas, determined to tell her story. A week later, Lily and Marcus dropped off the application at the gallery that hosted the mentorship program. The receptionist greeted them warmly, but as Lily handed over her portfolio, she noticed a small group of applicants in the waiting area. They were older than Lily, their confidence apparent in the way they carried themselves. They wore tailored coats and talked casually about their previous exhibitions and achievements. Lily suddenly felt out of place. She tugged at the frayed strap of her backpack, her cheeks flushing with embarrassment. "Let's go, Dad," she whispered, tugging at Marcus's sleeve. He nodded, sensing her unease, and they left the gallery in silence. That evening, Lily sat on her bed, staring at her sketchbook. The excitement she had felt earlier was gone, replaced by a heavy doubt. "What if I'm not ready?" she asked Marcus when he knocked gently on her door. Marcus sat on the edge of her bed, his voice steady. "Lily, those other applicants? They're not your competition. Your only competition is yourself. You don't have to be like them. You just have to be you." "But what if I don't get in?" "Then you try again," Marcus said simply. You've been through worse than rejection, kiddo. And every step forward, no matter how small, is still progress." Lily nodded slowly, his words easing the tight knot in her chest. 2 weeks later, Lily received a letter in the mail with the program's logo stamped in the corner. Her hands shook as she tore it open, Marcus hovering nearby. "Dear Miss Carter," she read aloud, her voice trembling, "we are pleased to inform you that you have been selected as a mentee in the Emerging Artists Mentorship Program." Her breath caught, and she looked up at Marcus, her eyes wide with disbelief. "You did it!" Marcus exclaimed, pulling her into a tight hug. Lily felt tears streaming down her face, a mixture of joy, relief, and gratitude. The program began with a formal orientation at a sleek gallery downtown. Lily arrived early, wearing her best outfit, a simple dress and polished shoes that Marcus had helped her pick out. The room was filled with other mentees, all of them buzzing with excitement. Lily spotted a few familiar faces from the waiting area the day she dropped off her application. They still looked polished and confident, but this time, Lily didn't feel as intimidated. "Hi," a girl with long braids and a bright smile said, extending her hand. "I'm Tasha. You're Lily, right?" Lily blinked in surprise. "Yes. How did you know?" "Your painting at the last gallery showcase," Tasha said. "It was amazing. I couldn't stop thinking about it." Lily blushed, unsure how to respond. "Thank you. That means a lot." As the orientation began, the program's coordinator explained that each mentee would be paired with a professional artist who would guide them through the next 6 months. The mentees would create a final piece to be exhibited at a prestigious gallery. When Lily's mentor was announced, she felt her heart skip a beat. She had been paired with Ethan Monroe, a renowned painter known for his emotionally charged abstract work. Ethan turned out to be both intimidating and kind. His studio was a sprawling space filled with canvases, jars of paint, and sketches pinned to the walls. "Welcome, Lily," Ethan said, his voice calm but commanding. "Let's see what you've got." Lily carefully unpacked her portfolio, laying her pieces on a large table. Ethan studied them in silence, nodding occasionally. "Your work has a lot of heart," he said finally, "but you're holding back. I want you to dig deeper. Art isn't just about what you see, it's about what you feel." Over the next few weeks, Ethan pushed Lily out of her comfort zone. He encouraged her to experiment with textures, colors, and techniques she had never tried before. At first, Lily struggled. There were moments when she felt frustrated, when her work didn't turn out the way she hoped. "I can't do this," she said one afternoon, throwing down her brush. "Yes, you can," Ethan said firmly. "Great art doesn't come from avoiding mistakes. It comes from embracing them." His words stuck with Lily, and gradually she began to find her rhythm. Meanwhile, back at school, Rachel couldn't resist throwing in one last jab. "Must be nice to have someone hand everything to you," Rachel sneered when she overheard Lily talking to Sophia about the mentorship program. Lily turned to her, her voice steady but firm. "Nothing's been handed to me, Rachel. I've worked for everything I have." Rachel opened her mouth to reply, but for once, she seemed at a loss for words. As the mentorship program progressed, Lily's confidence grew. Her final piece was inspired by her journey, a vibrant, abstract painting that combined bold strokes of color with delicate, intricate details. It represented her struggles, her growth, and the people who had supported her along the way. When the final exhibition opened, Lily stood beside her mentor, her heart pounding as visitors admired her work. "You've done something incredible," Ethan said, his voice filled with pride. "This is only the beginning for you, Lily." As Marcus arrived, his face glowing with pride, Lily felt a wave of gratitude. She had come so far, but she knew she couldn't have done it alone. The exhibition marked a turning point, not just in Lily's career, but in her belief in herself. She was no longer the shy girl who doubted her place in the world of art. She was an artist with a voice, and she was ready to keep telling her story. The weeks after the mentorship program's exhibition were a whirlwind for Lily. Her painting had drawn attention from art critics and collectors alike, and Ethan Monroe's glowing endorsement carried weight in the art world. For the first time, Lily felt like her dream of being an artist wasn't just a distant hope, it was becoming a reality. One afternoon, Lily sat in her room, surrounded by sketches and half-finished canvases. She was trying to prepare for her next steps. Opportunities were starting to come her way, but with them came new challenges, balancing school, commissions, and the demands of her growing artistic reputation. Her father, Marcus, knocked gently on the door and stepped in, holding a plate with a sandwich and an apple. "Figured you might need a break," he said, setting the plate on her desk. Lily looked up and smiled. "Thanks, Dad. I've been working on this new piece, but it's not coming together the way I want." Marcus sat on the edge of her bed, his expression thoughtful. "Sometimes you've got to step back and let it breathe. You're putting a lot of pressure on yourself, Lily." "I know," she admitted, picking at the edges of the bread. "It's just, there's so much I want to do, and I feel like if I mess up, I'll lose everything I've worked for." Marcus reached out and squeezed her hand. "You've already proven that you can handle anything, kiddo, and if you stumble, you'll get back up just like you always have." At the Collins Creative Arts Center, Lily began working on her next project, a series of pieces exploring themes of identity and resilience. The center had offered her a dedicated space to work, and Sophia often stopped by to lend a hand or simply chat while Lily painted. "Do you ever think about how far you've come?" Sophia asked one afternoon, watching as Lily added delicate details to her latest piece. "Sometimes," Lily replied, stepping back to examine her work. "But there's still so much I want to do. It feels like I'm just getting started." Sophia grinned. "That's the best part, though, right? You've got the whole world ahead of you." But not everything was smooth sailing. At school, Lily continued to face challenges. While many of her classmates had warmed to her success, others, like Rachel, still found ways to undermine her confidence. One day in the cafeteria, Rachel walked past Lily's table, her voice loud enough for everyone to hear. "Must be nice to have people hand you success just because they feel sorry for you." Sophia bristled, ready to fire back, but Lily put a hand on her arm. "Don't," she said quietly. "Why do you let her get away with it?" Sophia demanded. "Because her opinion doesn't matter," Lily replied, though her hands trembled slightly as she picked up her tray. Later that evening, Lily vented her frustrations to Marcus. "Rachel just doesn't quit," she said, pacing the living room. "It's like she wants me to feel small, no matter what I do." Marcus set down the wrench he'd been using to fix a broken chair. "People like that are stuck in their own misery, Lily. Don't let them drag you down. You've got too much to look forward to." His words stayed with her, and the next time Rachel tried to rattle her, Lily simply smiled and walked away. As Lily's confidence grew, so did her opportunities. Margaret Blake reached out with a proposal. A small gallery was interested in hosting a solo exhibition of Lily's work. The idea thrilled and terrified Lily in equal measure. "A solo show?" Lily asked, her voice filled with disbelief. "That's huge." "It is," Margaret replied, "but you're ready for it. This is your chance to show the world who you are as an artist." The next few weeks were some of the busiest of Lily's life. She poured her energy into creating new pieces for the exhibition, each one deeply personal. She painted scenes inspired by her childhood, the cracked walls of her apartment, the warmth of her father's smile, the resilience that had carried them through tough times. Ethan Monroe stopped by the studio one afternoon to check on her progress. "These are powerful," he said, studying her work. "You're finding your voice, Lily, and it's a voice worth listening to." His words filled Lily with a sense of pride, but also a heavy responsibility. She wanted her work to live up to the expectations of everyone who had supported her. The night of the solo exhibition arrived, and the small gallery was packed with visitors. Lily stood near the entrance, her heart pounding as people admired her paintings. Marcus was by her side, beaming with pride. "You did it, kiddo," he said, giving her shoulder a squeeze. "I couldn't have done it without you, Dad," Lily replied, her voice thick with emotion. As the evening went on, Lily overheard snippets of conversations about her work. "This one," a woman said, gesturing to a painting of a girl standing in a sunlit field, "is so raw and hopeful. You can feel the story behind it. It's like she's inviting you into her world," another man added. Lily felt tears prick at her eyes. For so long she had doubted whether her art mattered. Hearing strangers connect with her work was a feeling she would never forget. Toward the end of the night, Margaret introduced Lily to a woman named Clara, a representative from a prestigious art school in New York. "We've been following your work," Clara said, shaking Lily's hand. "And we'd like to offer you a scholarship to our pre-college program. It's a chance to refine your skills and prepare for a career in the arts." Lily stared at her, speechless. "A scholarship?" "Yes," Clara replied, smiling. "You have immense potential, and we want to help you reach it." When Lily and Marcus returned home that night, the weight of the evening finally hit her. She sat on the couch, the scholarship offer letter in her hand, and looked at Marcus. "Do you think I'm ready for this?" she asked softly. Marcus sat beside her, his expression serious but proud. "You've been ready, Lily. This is just the next step in your journey, and I'll be here every step of the way." Lily nodded, tears streaming down her face. For the first time, she truly believed in herself, not just as an artist, but as someone capable of achieving great things. She wasn't just growing into her dreams. She was living them. The morning light filtered through the curtains of Lily's room as she sat at her desk, staring at the scholarship acceptance letter from the New York Art School. It felt surreal, as if it were addressed to someone else. New York City. It was a world she'd only seen in movies and magazines, a place full of towering skyscrapers and endless possibilities. But along with the excitement came a wave of anxiety. Could she really leave her small southern town and the life she'd always known? Could she thrive in a city so big, with artists so talented? "Penny for your thoughts," Marcus said, leaning against the doorframe. He had a mug of coffee in one hand and his ever-present grease-stained towel draped over his shoulder. Lily turned to face him, holding up the letter. "It's just a lot, Dad. New York is so far, and I don't know if I'm ready." Marcus walked over, setting his coffee down on the desk. He knelt beside her, his expression serious. "Lily, you've faced bigger challenges than this," he said. "You've worked hard, and you've earned this. Don't let fear stop you from grabbing what's yours." "But what about you?" she asked softly. "The garage, the bills, everything." Marcus smiled, though his eyes were weary. "I'll manage. I always have. And knowing you're chasing your dreams, that's worth more than anything." The weeks leading up to her departure were a mix of chaos and reflection. Margaret Blake helped Lily navigate the logistics of moving, while the Collins Creative Arts Center held a small farewell gathering for her. Ms. Janice gave a heartfelt speech, her voice tinged with pride. "Lily, you've grown so much in your time here. You've shown us all the power of resilience and the beauty of authenticity. New York is lucky to have you." Sophia hugged Lily tightly, tears streaming down her face. "You better write me every week," she said, her voice trembling. "I will," Lily promised, fighting back her own tears. Packing was harder than Lily expected. Each item she placed in her suitcase felt like a piece of her life, a reminder of the journey that had brought her here. Her sketchbook was the last thing she packed, tucking it carefully between layers of clothing. It held years of dreams, struggles, and growth, everything that had led to this moment. On the day of her departure, Marcus drove Lily to the bus station in his old pickup truck. The ride was quiet, the weight of the moment settling over them. When they arrived, Marcus helped her unload her bags. He looked at her for a long moment, his expression unreadable. "You've got this, Lily," he said finally, pulling her into a tight hug. "No matter how far you go, you'll always have a home here." Lily clung to him, tears streaming down her face. "I'll miss you, Dad." "I'll miss you too, kiddo," Marcus said, his voice thick. "But I'm so proud of you." The bus ride to New York was long and filled with a mix of emotions. Lily stared out the window as the landscape changed, her mind racing with thoughts of what lay ahead. When the bus finally pulled into the station, Lily stepped off and was immediately greeted by the overwhelming energy of the city. The air was filled with the sounds of honking cars and distant chatter, the streets alive with movement. She clutched her suitcase tightly, her heart pounding as she navigated through the bustling crowd. Margaret had arranged for someone from the school to meet her, and after a few minutes of searching, she spotted a woman holding a sign with her name. "Lily Carter?" the woman asked with a warm smile. "Yes," Lily replied, her voice barely audible. "I'm Clara, one of the coordinators at the school," the woman said. "Welcome to New York. Let's get you settled." The art school was even more impressive than Lily had imagined. The building was a mix of modern architecture and historic charm, its walls adorned with student artwork. Clara led her to the dorms, where she would be staying with other pre-college students. "This is your room," Clara said, opening the door to a small but cozy space. "Take some time to settle in. Orientation starts tomorrow." After Clara left, Lily sat on the edge of the bed, taking in her surroundings. The room felt strange and unfamiliar, but it also held the promise of new beginnings. The next morning, orientation began. Lily was nervous as she entered the main hall, where dozens of other students had gathered. They all seemed confident and at ease, chatting animatedly with one another. Lily found a seat near the back, clutching her notebook like a shield. "Hi," a voice said beside her. She turned to see a boy with curly hair and glasses smiling at her. "I'm Ben," he said. "First day nerves?" Lily nodded, grateful for the kindness in his voice. "Yeah, it's a lot." "Tell me about it," Ben said, gesturing to the crowd. "Half these people look like they've been painting masterpieces since birth." Lily laughed softly, her tension easing a little. The first week of classes was intense but exhilarating. Lily was surrounded by talented peers, and the instructors pushed her to think differently about her art. One day, during a critique session, her instructor, Ms. Daniels, studied Lily's work closely. "This piece," Ms. Daniels said, pointing to a painting of a young girl standing in a field, "is evocative and deeply personal. But I want you to dig deeper. Don't just show us where you've been, show us where you're going." Her words stayed with Lily as she worked late into the night, experimenting with new techniques and ideas. As the weeks went on, Lily began to find her rhythm. She made friends with Ben and a few other students, forming a small but supportive circle. They often stayed up late in the dorm's common room, sharing stories and critiquing each other's work. For the first time, Lily felt like she belonged in a community of artists. One evening, after a particularly challenging class, Lily called Marcus. "Hey, Dad," she said, her voice tired but content. "Hey, kiddo," Marcus replied. "How's the big city treating you?" "It's a lot," Lily admitted. "But I think I'm finding my place here." Marcus chuckled. "I never doubted you for a second." As they talked, Lily felt a sense of comfort and connection, even though they were miles apart. By the end of the semester, Lily had completed a series of pieces that reflected her growth as an artist. Her final project, a large abstract painting titled Roots and Wings, was a tribute to her journey, her roots in her small town, and her wings in the world of art. During the end-of-semester showcase, Lily's painting received praise from both her peers and instructors. Standing beside her work, she felt a surge of pride and gratitude. This was only the beginning, but for the first time, Lily knew she was exactly where she was meant to be. The train hummed steadily beneath Lily as it carried her homeward. Outside the window, The cityscape gave way to sprawling fields and small towns, the rhythm of the journey soothing the jumble of emotions swirling in her chest. It had been nearly a year since she left for New York, and while she had grown and thrived, a part of her had missed the quiet familiarity of home. In her lap rested a portfolio filled with her newest works, pieces she had created not just to refine her craft, but to honor her roots. Each painting was a chapter of her story, her struggles, her triumphs, and the people who had shaped her along the way. When the train pulled into the small station, Lily stepped onto the platform, her heart pounding with anticipation. She spotted Marcus immediately, his familiar frame standing tall among the sparse crowd. His smile widened as their eyes met, and Lily ran to him, wrapping him in a tight hug. "Hey, kiddo," Marcus said, his voice thick with emotion. "You look like a real New Yorker now." Lily laughed. "Not quite, but I've missed you, Dad." "I've missed you too," he replied, pulling back to look at her. "Come on, let's get you home." The apartment hadn't changed much. The same creaky furniture and faded curtains greeted Lily as she stepped inside, but there was a warmth that felt even stronger than she remembered. "I've been sprucing up the place," Marcus said, gesturing toward a freshly painted wall. "Figured it was time for a little upgrade." "It looks great," Lily said, smiling, "and it feels good to be back." As they sat at the kitchen table that evening, catching up over Marcus's signature fried bologna sandwiches, Lily shared stories about her time in New York, the intense classes, the friendships she'd made, and the showcase that had marked her first real breakthrough as an artist. "You've come so far, Lily," Marcus said, his eyes shining with pride. "I always knew you had it in you." Lily reached into her bag, pulling out one of her paintings. It was a piece she had been working on for months, a portrait of Marcus in his garage, the light of the setting sun streaming through the windows. "This is for you," she said softly, sliding it across the table. Marcus stared at the painting for a long moment, his hand trembling as he touched the edge of the canvas. "Lily, this is beautiful," he said, his voice breaking. "Thank you." The next day, Lily visited the Collins Creative Arts Center, where it had all begun. The building was alive with activity, just as she remembered, and the sight filled her with a sense of nostalgia and gratitude. "Lily!" Sophia's voice rang out as she ran to greet her, pulling her into a hug. "You're back! I've missed you so much." "I've missed you too," Lily said, laughing. "How's everything here?" "Busy as always," Sophia replied. "And not the same without you. Everyone's going to be so excited to see you." Lily spent the afternoon catching up with Ms. Janice and the other students. She shared stories of her experiences in New York, but she was careful not to overshadow their own achievements. "You've inspired a lot of people here, Lily," Ms. Janice said, her voice warm. "And not just with your talent, with your kindness and perseverance. You've shown them what's possible." The words stayed with Lily as she left the center that evening. A week later, Lily held her first hometown exhibition at a local community center. With Margaret Blake's help, she had curated a collection of her pieces, focusing on themes of resilience, identity, and the power of community. The event drew people from all over town, including many who had watched Lily grow up. Marcus stood proudly by her side as visitors admired her work, their words of praise filling the room with warmth. "This one," an older woman said, gesturing to a painting of Lily's old apartment building under a starry sky, "captures so much hope. It's like you're saying, no matter where you come from, you can still reach for the stars." "That's exactly what I was trying to say," Lily replied, her voice steady. Rachel Hayes, her old classmate, appeared near the back of the room, standing awkwardly, as if unsure whether to approach. When Lily caught her eye, Rachel hesitated, then stepped forward. "Hey, Lily," Rachel said, her voice softer than Lily had ever heard it. "Your work is amazing. I just wanted to say, I'm sorry for how I treated you in school. I was jealous, and I let that get the better of me." Lily blinked in surprise, then smiled. "Thank you, Rachel. That means a lot." As Rachel walked away, Lily felt a sense of closure she hadn't realized she needed. At the end of the evening, as the visitors trickled out and the lights dimmed, Marcus found Lily sitting alone near one of her paintings. "You did good, kiddo," he said, sitting beside her. "Thanks, Dad," Lily said, leaning her head against his shoulder. "It feels good to give something back, you know?" Marcus nodded. "You've always had a big heart, and now the world's finally seeing it." In the weeks that followed, Lily began teaching free art workshops at the Collins Creative Arts Center, mentoring young students who reminded her of herself. She shared not just her techniques, but her story, showing them that with hard work and perseverance, they too could overcome obstacles and reach their dreams. One day, as Lily watched a young girl put the finishing touches on a painting, she felt a deep sense of fulfillment. This was what it was all about, not just creating art, but creating hope. Standing outside the center one evening, Lily looked up at the stars. The road ahead was still uncertain, but she knew one thing for sure: she was exactly where she was meant to be. After Lily looked up at the stars, reflecting on her journey and the impact of giving back to her community, the narrator's voice softly fades in. Lily's story reminds us all that resilience, kindness, and hope can change the course of a life. If this story inspired you, don't forget to hit that subscribe button for more heartfelt tales of perseverance and triumph. Share this journey with someone who might need a little extra hope today, and let's keep spreading stories that matter.